Today in Grow a Garden on Roblox, we've got something massive to talk about. Actually, two massive things in one video. First, I'm going to break down the latest leaks for the Fairy Part 2 update that's officially dropping this Saturday. And these leaks honestly look like they're about to completely change how this event works. And then after that, I'm going to give you the ultimate prep guide. The 10 things you should be doing right now so that when the update drops, you're already ahead of the curve while everyone else is still scrambling. So if this content interests you, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on leaks and guides like this. And if you can, please watch until the end and become part of the first 5k OGs of this channel. I've been loving the community we're building here, and I promise you, being ahead in Grow a Garden is way more fun than playing catch up. So let's go. Now, before we dive straight into the leaks, let me just say this. Huge shout out to Epta. He's the one who actually found and posted these leaks on his YouTube channel, so thank you to him for giving the community a first look at what's coming. And remember, this isn't the first leak we've gotten for the Fairy update. The very first one was the Dawn server, which I already uploaded a full breakdown video about. So if you haven't seen that one yet, make sure you check it out after this, because that leak plus these new ones basically give us a full picture of what Part 2 is shaping up to be. Alright, so let's get into what we've seen so far. The first thing that stood out to me is the new crafting system. This isn't just the same old seed table we've been using for every event. This one is showing tools like hammers, jars, and even a wand. And that right away tells me this isn't just about farming crops anymore. This is about crafting actual items that affect how fairies work in the game. It's a whole new layer of gameplay. One of the first things you'll notice is the fairy net. Now, there are two versions of this. The first one is simple enough. You craft it with crops like sunbulb and strawberry, and when you use it, it helps you catch fairies directly for bonus points. Pretty straightforward. But then there's the second version, and that one changes the game. Instead of just catching and immediately rewarding you with points, this advanced net actually stores fairies in your backpack. That raises a huge question. Why store them? Could it be that stored fairies are needed for crafting even bigger items? Or maybe you can turn them in later for rewards that are more valuable than points. The fact that there are two different nets already tells us that this isn't going to be the same simple fairy catching mechanic we had in part 1. Next up, there's the fairy radar and the fairy targeter. The radar is basically a tracker. It helps you locate where fairies are on the map. Useful but expected. But the targeter? This is where things start getting exciting. The targeter actually lets you summon a fairy directly into your garden. Think about how different that is from how we've been playing. Normally, you're running around chasing spawns or waiting for them to appear, but with this item, you'll literally be able to pull one straight into your space. That alone is going to make farming way faster and way more consistent. And then we've got the fairy power extender. This one honestly surprised me. Its whole job is to extend the length of fairy waves. So instead of the wave ending quickly, you'll actually have more time to farm during each wave. That means more fairies, more points, and more opportunities to stockpile. The recipe for this one requires fairy in a jar and a sprinkler. That's important because fairy in a jar keeps showing up in recipes. It's like a core material that branches into multiple other items. Once you've got that, you're set up to craft bigger upgrades. One of those upgrades is fairy power itself, which then leads to crafting the luminous wand. Now, this wand is honestly one of the craziest leaks we've seen. Instead of just summoning regular glimmering fairies, the luminous wand upgrades them into luminous fairies, which are rarer and stronger. That means you're not just increasing how many fairies you're farming, you're also increasing the quality of those fairies. Imagine farming for the same amount of time, but every fairy you catch has double the value. That's insane efficiency. But the biggest leak of all, that's the fairy summoner staff. If you've been playing Grow a Garden for a while, you know fairy waves usually only happen once per hour. That's the rhythm of the game. But with the summoner staff, you'll actually be able to trigger a whole wave whenever you want. Picture this, you finish your normal hourly wave and then right after you trigger a second wave back to back using the staff. That's basically doubling your farming potential in the same time frame. Now, it's not unlimited because crafting the stuff itself takes about an hour. But here's where it gets interesting. If you're on top of it, and especially if you have the right pets, you could still farm way more waves than casual players. And speaking of pets, here's something to think about. If the Pachycephalosaurus actually reduces the crafting time of these new tools, it could suddenly become meta again. Because if you can build a summoner staff faster than other people, you're literally doubling the number of waves you get compared to them. That's not just a small advantage, that's game changing. Now, let's talk about rewards. There's going to be a new NPC who keeps track of how many fairies you've caught. For every 100 you catch, you'll be able to claim an enchanted chest. Based on past events, those chests almost always contain high value rewards like pets. There's also an exotic version of the chest that you can buy with Robux, but even the free one looks rewarding enough to make the grind worth it. And here's a detail I wasn't expecting at all. NPC birthdays. Yeah, apparently NPCs are going to have birthdays now, and if you bring them cake on their day, they'll give you a reward. It sounds small, but I actually love stuff like this. It makes the world feel alive, and it gives you a reason to interact with NPCs outside of just farming or trading. So that's what we've seen from the leaks. Nets that can store fairies, radars, and targeters that make spawns easier to manage, extenders that stretch out waves, luminous ones that upgrade your fairies, and the summoner staff that basically changes the entire pace of the event. Huge thanks again to Efta for showing us this early. But here's the thing, knowing what's coming is only half the battle. The real question is, are you prepared? Because if you're not, you're going to be falling behind on day one while other players are already building these tools and farming luminous fairies. So let's shift gears into the second half of this video, the prep guide. The very first thing you need to do right now is stack up your fairy points. Some players already have millions sitting there waiting, and if crafting costs points, which looks very likely, they'll have a massive advantage. Me, I'm only sitting on 46,000 because I spent mine on upgrades, so I need to start farming again. If you're in the same position, don't wait until Friday. Start today, so you at least have a cushion when the update drops. Next, while you're farming points, don't ignore your glimmer radars. These drop from the Fountain of Power when you finish quests, and if crafting ends up needing glimmering fruits, you'll regret not having them. Even if they don't, having them ready is never a waste. It's one of those items that always finds a use in later updates. Another thing to stockpile is seed packs and eggs. If you remember the prehistoric event, week 2 required primal eggs that you could only get if you had saved the week 1 eggs. Events in Grow a Garden often build on themselves like that, so holding on to leftover eggs and seed packs now might save you from scrambling later. Your garden layout is another big one. If yours is currently set up for ascensions or prismatics, you might want to change it back toward crops that are better for fairy farming, like strawberries, blueberries, tulips, pumpkins, and watermelons. These give solid returns on fairy points, and reorganizing now means you won't lose time fixing it during the update. While you're at your crafting table, check if you've crafted at least one of every seed still available. Sometimes old event seeds get rotated out without warning, and you don't want to miss them. Right now, things like Twisted Tangle, Vein Petal, and Amber Spine are still around, so grab those if you haven't already. And here's a pro move for Saturday's admin abuse events. Fill your garden with cheap crops like carrots, around 100 to 150 spread evenly across your plots. Why? Because when mutations drop, the more crops you have planted, the higher your chances of catching mutations. Then later, you can use pets like Spinosaurus or T-Rex to transfer those mutations onto your stronger plants. It's one of the most reliable strategies for mutations, and you don't want to miss out. Don't forget your ascensions either. They don't just give you garden coins which you can spend in Sam's secret shop, but they're also going to be important for future updates. Developers have already teased that more NPCs might get friendship tiers later, and you'll need coins for that. So don't slack on ascensions now. It's all building toward what's next. And of course, you'll want to stack up on shekels. Trading in Discord servers is still one of the fastest ways to farm them, and having a pile of shekels means you'll be ready to grab any limited items or pets that show up in the new shops. Speaking of Discord, that's actually the last piece of prep I'll mention. Make sure you're in servers with notifiers that ping you about weather changes, shop resets, and event timers. If you rely only on in-game timers, you'll miss opportunities. But if you've got those alerts set up, you'll always be ahead of casual players. So yeah, that's the full breakdown. We've got massive leaks showing off new crafting systems, nets, luminous upgrades, the summoner staff, and NPC rewards. And we've got a prep plan that covers everything. Fairy points, glimmer radars, eggs, garden layouts, seed crafting, admin abuse setups, ascensions, shekels, and Discord notifiers. If you do even half of these things before Saturday, you'll be way ahead of most players when Fairy Part 2 drops. And honestly, that's what I love about making these videos. It's not just about seeing leaks, it's about actually being prepared so when the update hits, you're not stressing, you're winning. So if you found this helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button, join the first 5,000 OGs of the channel, and let me know in the comments what you think of these leaks. Are you most hyped for the summoner staff, the luminous wand, or maybe the idea of NPC birthdays? I'd love to hear what you're planning for part 2. Thanks for watching all the way through. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.